One of the final exams I had to take before graduating from nursing school was the HESI exit exam. Now, before the exam, I tried to find out some more information about it so I would have some idea of what it was or what to expect, and discovered that there was relatively little reliable or consistent information about it on the internet, which only increased my already sky-high level of anxiety. We were told from the beginning of the semester not to worry about it, and everyone in previous semesters had done really well on it, but the few commentators and bloggers online who talked about it told a very different story. Not only that, but it was hard to even tell what form the exam was going to take or how it was going to be graded. So for those of you staring down the HESI exit exam in your near future, I just wanted to share my personal experience with you, as well as whatever other tidbits of information I could glean, so that you could feel better prepared going in. Well, better prepared than I was anyway. What is the HESI? HESI stands for Health Education Systems Incorporated, which tells you absolutely nothing. It's just the name of a company that administers an exam that is widely used in nursing schools. Now, some schools also use a HESI entrance exam as a requirement for getting into nursing school. My school did not, so I have no idea what that test is like. From what I understand, it's a fairly basic general knowledge / aptitude type test, but I won't be discussing that in this video because, in addition to my lack of firsthand knowledge, the HESI entrance exam is far less common than the HESI exit exam. Most nursing programs use the HESI exit exam as a way of measuring how ready you are to take the NCLEX exam and get your professional license. The score you get on the HESI is apparently a very accurate predictor of how well you're going to do on the NCLEX. Some schools offer it as an optional test outside of the curriculum. Some make it mandatory, but your score is not included in your final nursing school grades. And other schools, like the one I attended, do include your HESI score as part of your final grade. It's sort of a comprehensive post-final final exam. What is the HESI format? The HESI is a computer-based exam that you'll take in a testing center under proctored conditions. The exam is 160 questions pulled from a test bank of thousands of potential questions, but only 150 of those questions actually contribute to your score. The other 10 questions are ones that are being tried out and vetted to see if they should be included in future versions of the test. Now, those are going to be mixed in with your other 150 questions, so you're not really going to know which ones are which. Most of the questions are multiple choice with a fair amount of select all that apply questions, and a few other format questions such as matching, putting steps in order, or dosage calculations. We were given 5 hours to complete the exam. I was a pretty average student all throughout nursing school, and it took me right about 3 hours to complete it. Now, some students finished faster, some took longer, a few students even took the entire 5 hours, so be prepared for that possibility. After the exam is over, you'll be shown the questions that you missed and the rationales for the correct answers, and then you'll be given a report that shows your score as well as what areas you did the best and worst on so that you can tailor your studying for the NCLEX accordingly. How is the HESI scored? This seems like a simple question, but the answer is actually rather complicated. The grading scale can go above 1,000 or even up above 1,500 depending on the questions that you're asked, but 880 is usually considered to be a good passing score. But it's hard to be more specific than that because every test is somewhat different. As I mentioned, there are 150 questions that you do get scored on and 10 non-graded questions that are just there for evaluation purposes. But even on those 150 questions that you're getting scored on, it's still not a simple case of 1 point for one question, because those questions are categorized by subject as well as by difficulty, and they'll each affect your score in different ways. Some questions are considered to be basic, and any graduating nursing student would be expected to know the answer to them. If you get those right, they don't boost your score by much because they're like, well, you should get that right. But if you get them wrong, they can drop your score by quite a bit. Now, on the other hand, questions that are considered to be difficult or obscure can raise your score quite a bit if you get them right, and you won't be penalized too harshly if you get them wrong. Additionally, the number of subcategories that a question falls under can also affect how many points they're worth. For example, if it's a question about what drug to administer to a nursing mother, that question could fall under pharmacology, pediatrics, OB, implementation, etc., whereas other questions might only fall under one or two different subcategories. Now, unlike on most exams, it also seems like you get partial credit for those dreaded select all that apply questions, so that's a huge boost for most of us. You'll get a HESI score that'll be some big number, like between 750 and 1100, but that'll be converted into a percentage score that is a little easier to understand and that factors in the relative difficulty of the questions you got right or wrong. When I finished my exam and was reviewing the questions that I missed, it seemed like I missed a ton and I was really starting to panic. But my overall score was considerably higher than just the straight numbers would have led me to believe, and other classmates that I talked to said the exact same thing. How should I prepare for the HESI? I got this book at the beginning of my last semester with the intention of studying it a little bit every day.
It never happened. It never happened. This one was invented by a writer. Not this time. It never happened.
It wasn't until I finished my final exams that I was actually able to take the time to open up this book and do some review. And it's a pretty good resource, especially these yellow boxes labeled HESI hints. I also had this NCLEX review book with over 1,000 practice questions in it that I tried to slog through in the days leading up to the exam. Ultimately, I can't say that I prepared as much as I wanted to. I was totally exhausted from finishing that last semester, and I only had 3 days between my last final exam and the HESI exam, but I still did really well. I really do recommend a study guide like this and just running through as many generalized practice questions as you can. They won't be the same questions that you'll find on the HESI, but they really do help jog your memory about topics that you haven't studied or even thought of for a while. Now, of course, there are also study apps that you can buy for your phone or for your computer. I didn't use any of them before the HESI, although I did use UWorld before the NCLEX. So I can't really vouch for their effectiveness for that exam, but if that's something that you're interested in, definitely go for it. I got the Quizlet app from my phone way back in first semester, and I have to say it's been really handy to be able to run some flashcards wherever I am if I have a few minutes without having to lug books and papers around. So if mobile apps help you, there are definitely HESI and NCLEX study apps out there. Is the HESI difficult? Well, it's certainly not easy. It does cover pretty much every topic that you studied in nursing school since day one. So if it's been a while since you studied like the endocrine system or different types of cancer, there will be a lot of questions on there that'll make you say, I used to know that. But there were no trick questions as such. Most of the questions could be reasoned through, even if it wasn't something that I had explicitly memorized. And even though 160 questions doesn't sound like a lot, it is pretty grueling. You do have to read the questions very carefully, and you will have to stop and really think about many of them before answering. What I will say is that I found the HESI to be easier than any of our 4th semester exams, and I feel that it was also a little easier than the NCLEX. The NCLEX questions that I got seemed to be kind of vague and tended to give you all good options for answers or all bad options for answers, while the HESI questions didn't play those sorts of games at all and were a lot more straightforward. So that was my HESI experience and what I learned from it. I hope that helps you out a little as you prepare. Now, to be honest, the HESI was the least of my worries compared to the final exam and the NCLEX, but I'm still glad that I took some time to prepare for it and didn't just go into it completely cold. I probably won't do a video like this about the NCLEX because there are already thousands of those out there. But what I will say about my HESI and NCLEX experience is that I went into the HESI with 3 days of fairly minimal preparation and I got a 95%. I used the UWorld app to study for the NCLEX, which I took 2 months after graduation, and I passed that in 75 questions. And bear in mind, like I said, I was an average, middle-of-the-pack student all throughout nursing school, besides already being pretty old and having a toddler and a newborn at home. So if I can do it, you can do it. Something else you can do is hit those like and subscribe buttons. Good luck to all of you, breathe, don't panic, and I look forward to seeing all of you out there in the nursing field someday.